Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Ultimate MSP Marketing Strategy Workshop with NinjaOne and with special guest Paul Green. My name is Matt. I'm Marketing Coordinator for the UK for NinjaOne. My job today is very simple. I'm your host. Hopefully I'll be able to host us through and guide us through these next 60 minutes of MSP wisdom from Paul Green. Before I call Paul up and introduce him a little bit, a few bits of housekeeping from my side. Firstly, about structure. So we should be done within the hour. We're going to hear a presentation by Paul to start off with. But then we'll have a section at the end just for some Q&A. We want to hear about you, about your MSP, how your marketing for your MSP is going. So please engage, get involved. And that brings me on to my second point. I think these sessions work best when you engage yourself. There's a chat. You should be able to see a chat on probably your, which side? That side, right-hand side, left-hand side. The screen's flipped. But put in the chat when you're listening from today. If you have any questions throughout the whole thing, make sure you put that in the chat as well. There's also, if you have a look as well, next to the chat, there's a Q&A column. It'd be great if you have any questions, put them in that Q&A section because we'll collect them and hopefully ask Paul to answer them there at the end as well. Lastly, on follow-up, after this webinar, we'll send you the recording of this just in case there's any tidbits that you perhaps missed during the first time around when you're watching it live. And we'll also send you a PDF, which NinjaOne and Paul have put together with some actionable tips, because this webinar is all about giving you some really great actionable tips for your MSP and how you can improve marketing with your MSP. So without further ado, that's enough talking from me. That's the intros done. That's the official bit done. We'll introduce Paul. Paul, why don't you come on up here? While you're coming up, I'll read your quick. Oh, there you are, Paul.
I'm here.
How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much, Matt, for such a great intro. And I'm really looking forward to the next, 52 minutes or so. We have a ton of great marketing advice. As you say, it's all actionable advice that any MSP anywhere in the world can take away and turn into basically more prospects, more clients, and ultimately more revenue, because that's what everyone wants.
Great. So I'll just give a few shout outs to the chat. We got A. Sheen, great to see you. Vivian Rodriguez, great to see you. Oh, Lastia Services from the East Midlands, great part of the country. That's God's country, really is. And Alexandra, it's great to see you as well. Paul, shall I read your little bio then and
go
tell
on,
everybody about
nothing like hearing your
intro. Who you are.
Exactly, nothing like hearing the intro that you yourself have written.
Exactly, but I'm going to read it, so it's going to sound fantastic. Hello for Dublin as well. Great to have you with us. Paul Green, you're an MSP marketing expert based in the UK, working with over 700 MSPs all around the world. Is that right?
Yeah, it's probably about 720 something as we speak today. But yes,
that's great. You help them improve their marketing, generating more leads with your MSP Marketing Edge program. And hopefully, you're going to be telling us a little bit about that a little bit later on. That's really great to hear. You're a former journalist as well, which I think you've got such an amazing career. And a radio presenter as well. Where did you work with for that?
So no radio stations that you've ever heard of unless you've lived in Northampton or Coventry or Peterborough or Cambridge, the famous Cambridge here in the UK. They were all sort of local music stations, and I did that. I was on the radio for 10 years, which meant getting up at 4 a.m. every single weekday. I know. I started when I was 22. So to ask a 22-year-old to get out of bed at 4 a.m. is a big deal. But that was a great job. That was great fun. That was, yeah.
No, as long as you had fun doing it. And then you also host your own podcast, Paul Green's MSP Marketing Podcast as well, which is available from all your favorite podcast platforms as well. I'm going to leave the stage to you now. Hopefully I'll be able to sit back and take some notes from what you're going to present. But I'm going to leave you with one question as well. And that is, what is your favorite thing about your job?
Oh, that's a really good question. And actually, the answer is doing this. So I'm a business owner, the same as everyone else on here. And often when we're in the business, I don't know if you find this as an MSP, that doing the technical work is still more enjoyable for you than doing the marketing or building the business. You've got to do those activities because they're ultimately what are increasing your personal income. But I like doing this, and this is my equivalent of technical work, which is talking about marketing and helping MSPs.
Wow, that sounds great. Paul, thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to give the stage to you now. And let's jump right into it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt. And before we get started, let me just mention some free resources that you can get because there's tons of marketing help out there. So Matt mentioned the podcast yesterday we actually published our 150th episode. So 3 years that podcast has been running. And if you go onto any of your podcast platforms and just search for Paul Green's MSP Marketing Podcast, it really is a great listen. We have great guests on that. And again, actionable advice you can use every week. We also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/MSP marketing. 3 new videos uploaded there every week. And this is brand new. And you, as a NinjaOne partner or as someone involved with NinjaOne, you are going to be one of the first MSPs on the planet to take advantage of this, which is we have launched a magazine. Matt didn't even know I was going to do this because this has only been ready for about a week. So it's called MSP Marketing Magazine. It's completely free. We don't even charge you the postage. There's only one issue of it. I think we'll do a couple a year, but you can get a copy right now for free if you go to my website. It's paulgreensmspmarketing.com and then click on where it says Learning Hub. And in there, you'll see up at the top that you can get a free magazine. So we're going to talk today about the ultimate MSP marketing strategy. And what you're about to see is brand new content that we've put together just for NinjaOne. And I want to take the time, and this is the beauty of having an hour to talk about this. I want to take the time to explain to you why marketing is so hard. I want to explain to you why it seems to take so long to generate leads, to warm up prospects, why it's so difficult to find people who are ready to take on their new MSP. I'm going to take the time to explain that to you and essentially to help you to think like the prospects that you want to reach. Because it's only when you understand them and you understand how they think and how they feel that you can actually start to influence them. And as Matt said, I'm working with more than 700 MSPs across the world with our MSP Marketing Edge program. And a huge amount of our time and effort is spent helping the MSPs we work with to understand prospects and to educate prospects and show them why they should talk to you and not talk to any other MSP. Now, I have a big message that I want you to take from everything today. And if there's one thing that you take from this webinar, this is the thing I want you to take away. It's that your marketing shouldn't be a series of random events. Instead, your marketing must be a system. And you must have a series of things that happen within that system, things that happen on a daily basis, things that happen on a weekly basis, and things that happen on a monthly basis. And you set up this system once. In fact, I'm going to challenge you towards the end of the webinar that you personally do the setup. You set up these activities once. I'll tell you what the activities are to set up, and I'll tell you how to set them at once so you do them once or twice, and then you get someone else to do them for you. The vast majority of MSPs I work with don't enjoy marketing. It's a distress activity. It's something that you have to do because you want the new clients, you want the new revenue, but you don't necessarily enjoy it. So I'm going to tell you what you should be doing, how to get it set up, and how then to turn it into a system. Now, let's start with a poll. And Simon, our technical genius in the background, is going to launch this poll now. The question I want to ask you is, what's the biggest problem? The biggest marketing problem in your MSP right now. So if you head over to the vote and you'll see that your options are either generating leads, turning leads into appointments, turning appointments into clients, or retention. So if you want to go and vote on those now, and what we'll do with this, I'm just trying to show you how all MSPs or most MSPs have exactly the same problems. And you can see the vote starting to come in. You've got about 10 seconds to cast your vote. I've spoken to, it must be getting on near for 1,000 MSPs over the last 6 years or so. And the vast majority have got exactly the same problems. Let's see if you have as well. We're going to close that poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Simon, close the poll. Okay, so the poll has now been closed, and we can see from the votes that 75% of MSPs who voted there have said, or 69% it's just turned into, their problem is generating leads. 23% say their problem is turning appointments into clients, and 8% is turning leads into appointments. So predominantly there, the biggest problem featured, or the biggest problem that affects MSPs, and this is a worldwide issue, is generating leads. Let's talk today about exactly how you can generate more leads from your MSP. Now, most MSPs, when you talk to them and you ask this exact question, when you drill into it, you realize that most MSPs have these 4 big problems with their marketing and their sales. And as we go through these 4 problems, I want you to ask yourself, is this an issue for you? Is this one of the problems you have in your MSP? Problem number 1 is that the decision makers that you are trying to reach, they don't know what they don't know. Now, by decision makers, I mean business owners and managers. So just to clarify, as we're talking throughout this webinar, when I talk about decision makers, I mean normal business owners, the printer, the accountant, the lawyer. I don't know why you'd want to have lawyers as clients, but these are the kind of people that I know that you want to reach. We're not talking today about any kind of managed IT or anything like that, where you're dealing with an IT manager or someone who has awareness and knowledge. That's actually a different form of marketing. When someone that you want to reach has some level of knowledge, we call that an educated audience, then you have to market to them in a very different way. And that's where actually you do get a little bit technical with your marketing. Everything we're talking about on this webinar assumes that you want to reach ordinary people. They make the decisions because they run or manage the businesses, but critically, they do not know about technology. In fact, they don't know what they don't know about technology. They consider themselves to be technologically savvy, because who doesn't these days? You know, if you've got an iPhone and an iPad and, you know, you manage to get your smart TV onto your home Wi-Fi, then in your head, you're technologically savvy, but they are not. If you want to prove to yourself how untechnical your prospects and your clients are, go ask your clients a very simple question. Ask them to explain the cloud to you in a single sentence, and they won't be able to do it. They're kind of aware what the cloud is, that the data's not sat here, but they cannot really describe it. You know, I'm sure if you've had this exact experience of sitting down with quite intelligent clients who are very good at what they do. They could be incredibly intelligent people, but they just cannot describe technology properly because they don't understand it. So this is an issue if your marketing is predominantly technology based. If you're trying to reach an audience of people who are not technology people, but you're talking about technology, you're going to lose them. So what we're going to recommend later on is that in your marketing, you actually focus on not on the technology itself, but what the technology does to decision makers, how it affects them, how they feel about it, and how it stops them or enables them to do the things they want to do with their business. Now, problem number 2 is that these decision makers you want to reach, they're not making buying decisions with their brains, they're making buying decisions with their hearts. Now, this directly happens because of that first problem we were talking about. When someone doesn't understand something, it is impossible for their brain to make a good cognitive decision. So if, for example, let's go back to that co-managed scenario. If you were selling to an internal IT manager and you're trying to sell them consultancy advice and you're trying to sell them help desk support, you can have a technical conversation with that person. You can use jargon like endpoints, because everyone in our world knows what an endpoint is. You can use all sorts of other jargon. I'm not actually a technical person, so I don't know that much about jargon, but I know if one tech person is talking to another tech person, that conversation very quickly descends into universal jargon. But the problem is it's not universal jargon for ordinary decision makers. So in their brains, they look at your MSP, and they look at another MSP, and they look at a third MSP. They cannot cognitively decide whether you are any good at what you do. I work with 700 plus MSPs. I work very closely with about 20 or 30 of them in some peer groups. And even I don't know at a cognitive level if those MSPs are good or not at what they do. There really is no way to know unless you're in this world, which most of the decision makers aren't. So when they can't make a cognitive decision without realizing it, because they don't know that they're doing this, but they will drop the decision down to their heart. Put another way, they will pick you or not pick you based on how they feel about you. They don't realize that they're doing it, but ordinary business owners and managers pick you or don't pick you based on how they feel about you. This is why what I'm going to recommend to you is that you put a huge amount of effort and resource into building relationships with your prospects. It's too late to wait until the point that they are ready to buy. If you don't have some level of relationship with them at that point, you're there fighting with all the other MSPs to try to get a place at the table. It's too late at that point. What you want to be doing is simultaneously building relationships with hundreds, preferably thousands of different prospects at exactly the same time. And I'm going to show you exactly how you'll do that in this webinar. Now, problem number 3 is that inertia loyalty rules. What is inertia loyalty? It's something that keeps us with a supplier for way longer than we should stay. I'll give you an example. I bank personally here in the UK with Lloyds Bank, which is one of the what we call the big four, one of the big four dominant old banks here in the UK. And I opened my bank account, which is my day-to-day current bank account. I opened that with them in 1988. And I've then since gone on, I've had mortgages from them. I've bought financial products. Obviously, I've still got that bank account. I've upgraded to like a premium level. So I pay, I don't know, whatever it is, £10 a month. You know, I would love to sit down one day and work out how much Lloyds Bank has taken from me since I was 14 years old, which is 34 years. So 34 years I've been a customer. This, by the way, is why banks try so very hard to capture people as children. Why haven't I left Lloyds? Because I do have many other bank accounts with many other banks. I'll tell you why. It's not that Lloyds is so much better than anyone else, because they're not. They're as bad as all of the banks. It's just that it feels like too much hassle. I could very easily, and there are all sorts of guarantees here in the UK that make switching easy. I could very easily switch over to one of my other banks. I just can't be bothered. And we call this inertia loyalty. It's where it feels, and it is a feeling, remember, it's not a cognitive thing. It feels easier to stay with a supplier that you're not that bothered about, but that you know, than it is to move over to someone that's more exciting, but that you don't know. There are many challenger banks here in the UK. There's Starling and there's Tide and Metro, and they're all very exciting and they operate in different ways and they're all app driven. And I really should move over to one of those because they're more exciting. It just feels easier to stay with Lloyds. This is what's happening in the hearts and minds of your prospects. In fact, maybe you've had this exact scenario happen to you where you've sat down with a prospect and they've said to you, out and out said to you, we've been with our incumbent MSP for 5 years, 7 years, and they were really good at the start. And then what's happened is over time, things have just degraded. No one ever seems to pick up the phone anymore and just call us. We don't really know who our contact is there. When we call them, the phone rings and rings and rings. And when we do have a problem, it seems to take ages to get it sorted. Essentially, what's happened is they used to have a relationship with the MSP when the MSP was small. And as that MSP's got bigger, it's become a little more impersonal to them. And they will say to you, we used to love those guys. Now we're a bit about them. We're ready to switch to someone else. And that's where you go into full-on sales mode and you start to build a relationship with them and you show them what you can do to help them. And the package is right. The price is right. The relationship seems right. And it looks as though you're going to win that client. And then they call you a few weeks down the line and they say to you, yeah, we kind of signed another contract with our incumbent, you know, the ones that we're not so happy with. And you think, why? Why have these guys done this? They've done it because of inertia loyalty. It seemed safer to them to stay with a supplier they knew but they didn't like so much than to move over to you, because as much as they like you more, they don't know you. And that makes you a risk. Now, inertia loyalty has an especially big effect when people don't know what they don't know. See, these first 3 problems, they're all linked together because they all have an impact on your prospects. Then we come over to the 4th problem, and it's this. People only buy when they are ready to buy. Now, I have worked in loads of different sectors over the years, lots and lots of different sectors, B2B and consumer businesses. And I have never known a sector like tech, like managed services, where the sales cycle is so slow and it takes so long. And in fact, all of those problems we've just been talking about, like inertia, loyalty, and lack of knowledge, and them making decisions based on their emotions, all of those things just slow the sales cycle down. Now, this is actually a double-edged sword because you benefit from this as much as it stops you winning new clients faster. How do you benefit? Well, you've had most of your clients for a very long time, right? In fact, you probably already have or still have client number 1 or number 2 or number 3 from when you started. I know MSPs that have been going for 20 years and they still have their original clients from 20 years before. So this is the other edge of the sword. You benefit from this inertia loyalty. You benefit from the fact that people don't like switching around. And of course, you keep your clients for a long time because you do a good job. But being brutally honest, you also keep a subset of your clients just because it's too much hassle for them to switch away. So that's the benefit for you. The downside is it really does take time. And you cannot and will never ever force someone to switch from their incumbent MSP over to you before they are ready. What you've got to do is you've got to play a long game. Now, that long game is what we're going to talk about now. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do because the goal here is to move people through the process as quickly as they are comfortable to move through it, but also for you to be ready at every single stage. You see, people go through these stages. They start off as suspects. Suspects are suspicious. They don't understand you. They don't understand technology. They're scared. And we're looking to move them on to a point of them being a lead. Now, a lead is someone who is known to you. Everyone who is connected to you on LinkedIn is a lead. Everyone who is in your email database is a lead. Those who leads are, and you want as many leads as you can get. In my business, we're currently sitting on around about 15,000 leads right now. So we have multiple audiences. It's a concept I'm going to tell you about in about 2 minutes. And those multiple audiences, they're all leads. Now, they're not all going to become clients, but some of them will. Most MSPs don't have enough leads. You want as many leads as you can get. And of course, they should all be people you'd be happy to do business with. But a mistake would be trying to pre-qualify them too early. Get leads into your audiences, as many leads as you can, as quickly as you can. From a lead, they go on to become a prospect. So a prospect is someone who's having a conversation with you. You can have thousands of leads, but you might only have 10 or 20 or 30 prospects. Maybe it's a video call. Maybe you're having a chat on email. Maybe you've met someone at a networking event. Maybe it's a phone call. But they become a prospect at the point you start asking them questions about their favorite subject. What's everyone's favorite subject? It's themselves and their business. So you ask them the questions, and that's the point they become a prospect. Now, not all prospects then go on to become opportunities. So an opportunity is where you look at this and you think, yeah, I've got enough users here. I can see that it's the kind of business that we would do well with, and I like these people. Not all clients are equal. And in fact, one of the worst things you can do as an MSP is to take on clients just for money. Particularly if you've ever sat in a prospect meeting with someone and you're thinking, this guy's an idiot. I'm not going to enjoy working with this person. Well, if you feel like that at the beginning of the relationship, guess what? It's only going to go downhill from there. I'm a big fan of you as an MSP only taking on board clients that you know they're the right kind of people in how they act and how they think, and they fit up. They're a good fit for your business. And that's when they become an opportunity. And obviously from there, they go on to become a client. And then a bonded client. A bonded client is the person that sticks with you for 20 years. And at any stage of your MSP's growth, whether you're turning over £4, £40, 400, 4,000, 400,000 or 4 million, doesn't matter how much you're turning over, you can still turn clients into bonded clients. And that's all down to what happens to them in their first 100 days. That's not something we're going to talk about today, but maybe NinjaOne can get me back for another webinar early next year, and we can talk about what you do with your clients in the first 100 days and how it directly affects their future relationship with you. So, how do we generate more leads? Because that's predominantly what this is about. There is a 3-step marketing strategy. This works for MSPs. This is the perfect marketing strategy. It's powerful, but it's also very, very simple, because I do know that most MSPs don't enjoy marketing. This is that 3-step strategy. Step number 1 is you build yourself multiple audiences. So these are groups of people to listen to you. So, for example, if I tell you my audiences, I have an email database. I have my LinkedIn connections. I then have followers on LinkedIn, because I'm a content creator on LinkedIn. So I have connections and followers. I then have my LinkedIn newsletter subscribers, which is a third database. I then have my YouTube channel. I then have my subscribers who get my MSP marketing magazine. And I have some other, my podcast as well. So I have all of these different audiences. And in fact, one of my goals is to get an MSP in one audience to be in all of those audiences, because I want to email someone and put my content in front of them in LinkedIn and send them something in the post and all of these kind of things and have them listening to me on a podcast. This is called multi-touch points. And you're aiming to do exactly the same thing. So for most MSPs, there are 2 audiences that you have to build. The first audience is your email database. So people that you send educational emails to. We'll come back to that in a second. And your second audience is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is absolutely the number one B2B sales platform right now. And you should be putting as much of your marketing effort as you can into LinkedIn. And as I alluded to earlier, there are lots of different things to do on LinkedIn, which we'll come back to in a second. So your first step then is to build yourself multiple audiences. Your second step is then to build a relationship with those audiences. What do we mean by relationship? Because you're not going to be best buddies. They're not going to turn up to your house for a beer on a Friday night. But what you can do is you can build a very low-level marketing relationship with them. This is done through content. Now, the kind of content that I'm talking about is not technical content. They will be very bored if you start talking about SharePoint 4.638 and the latest release. That's very boring. No one is interested in that, apart from maybe you. But ordinary people that you want to reach, they don't care. So we want to build a relationship with them through educational content about business. We take technology and we look at how can that be used to improve their business. Let me give you one example. Teams. Now, I personally think Teams is some of the worst software on the planet, but I understand that it's very popular amongst businesses. Obviously, you sell it kind of as part of your 365 package, and certainly it is a tool that's being improved literally every week. There's news that comes out every week about another enhancement to Teams. Microsoft is working very, very hard on it. So you take something like Teams. Yes, it has its issues, but it absolutely is a great collaborative tool. It's a great communication tool, and it is very much made for the hybrid way of doing work today. Microsoft absolutely has nailed that over the last couple of years. So instead of talking about the technicalities of Teams, you talk about how it can help get more things done. How can Teams help with productivity? How can Teams make hybrid working easier? How can Teams make it safer for people to do work wherever they are, sitting in a Starbucks or a Tim Hortons or whatsoever? Those are the things, that's the kind of the educational content. We talk about the technology in the context of how it helps people to grow their businesses, not the technology itself. And we'll talk about exactly how you do that in a second. And then the final step, the third step, is to commercialize that relationship. And that commercialization is very simply done by picking up the phone and calling people, which we're going to talk about in detail in a second. The good news is you don't do that. I've only ever met 2 MSPs who really love picking up the phone and calling prospects day in, day out. They're not normal. The vast majority of MSPs, and maybe you are the same, they don't want to pick up the phone at all, and I cannot blame you. So I'm going to tell you now about 5 specific things that you need to do. This is our final 10 minutes of the content. Please do go and ask questions, by the way. Go into that Q&A tab that's over there and enter your question, and myself and Matt will come and answer those questions in the last 10, 15 minutes or so. I'm going to get on to a series of 5 things that you need to do in order. And the first two are actually one-off jobs. The first one-off job for you is to go and fix your website. Now, before we talk about what to fix on your website, let's launch another poll. And Simon's going to launch this poll now. The question is on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is awful and 5 is world class. How would you rank your website right now? So if you think your website is dreadful, give it a score of like 1 or 2. If you think your website is amazing, it's world class, give it a score of 4 or 5. Now, of course, what I haven't set out here is the criteria of what defines a good website. Well, I would say a good website engages its audience, it's got interactivity, it catches their attention, and it's more focused on them than on you. And we'll come on to those in a second. So voting stops on this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom, end of votes. So on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is awful and 5 is world class, we've got 90% of our audience has voted their website as a 2 or a 3 level, and just one person has voted their website as being amazing, as being world class. And I'm guessing that's someone who's recently fixed their website. When we talk about fixing your website, what exactly do I mean? I mean making it so that it's about the prospect. You see, it's very tempting for us to put together websites that are about us and about the things that we do, in particular about the services that we provide. But you have to remember and go back on all the things I was talking about, how ordinary prospects think and act. They're scared, they don't understand technology, and they're terrified of making the wrong decision, of switching to the wrong MSP. So we need to make them feel at ease. And in particular, we need to talk to their heart. So that means lots of emotional content on your website. And this is very difficult for technical people to do. It's often why the answer to fixing your website is just go and get someone else to do it for you. And if you're asking for a recommendation of, I don't build websites, I have done, we don't do any done for you marketing for MSPs at all. I had an entire marketing agency doing done for you marketing, which I sold in 2016. And I'm never doing that again, because that is a heart attack waiting to happen. But if you want me to recommend someone, just pop that in the Q&A and I'll do a recommendation later. There are a couple of people that I can recommend to you. But go and get someone else to do your website for you and tell them that you want an emotional website. That means content that talks to the prospect about their problems. Because actually, we can assume what most business owners' problems are. They're pretty much the same as your business problems. Not enough new business coming in, staff, recruiting staff, clients being a hassle, going to sleep at night, waking up at 4 a.m, worrying about things. What do you do as an MSP to take those things away? Well, you keep them safe. You stop them from being breached. You help their staff be more productive. You ensure that technology makes them, makes flexible working easy, not difficult. And you help them grow by not letting technology get in their way. And all of those, by the way, feel free to pick all of those things and put those on your website, because that's what business owners want to hear. They don't want to hear about your security stack. They don't even know what that is. They don't want to hear about your PSA, your RMM. They don't know what these things are. They don't want to see that, you sell telecoms and that you're a Microsoft Gold partner. I don't know if that even exists anymore with NCE, but they don't care about that stuff. They want to hear that you understand their business, you understand how they feel, and you're here to help them hit their growth plans. Every business owner has plans for growth. Many of them don't actually do anything about those plans, but they have an ambition. They'll sit there for 10 years talking about how they want to grow their business and really take it somewhere next year. So give those people the confidence that you are the growth-related MSP. Show them photos of you and your team. No stock images. Stock images kill sales. No standard cheesy lines that have been written from anywhere else. Write from the heart, or get someone to write from the heart for you. Show them pictures of you. Show them pictures of you and your family. If you go and look on my website, you'll see a picture of me and my daughter. Now, it was her many years ago when she was about 7, which was when she was cute. She's 12 now. She's not cute anymore. She's just annoying. It's preteen annoying. But there's deliberately a photo of me and my daughter because I want you to see that I'm a family guy, because that's a big part of my identity. And the chances are that you're a family person as well. So it's a little thing that we can bond over. That's deliberate. That's not accidental. So show them stuff. If you're in a specific city and that city it has specific landmarks, and that's relevant because you want the audience of that, more people in that city to pick you. Show photos of that city. If you're in a particular niche, let's say you work with accountants or lawyers, show me accountants and lawyers. In fact, that leads me on to the other thing you need on your website, which is social proof. So social proof are case studies, testimonials, reviews. People prefer to do things they see other people doing, and that's what social proof is. We are sheep. If you want a lawyer to buy from you and they can see 20 testimonials from other lawyers, they are more likely to pick you because you are the safe choice. Their heart says you're the safe choice because they see that other people like them already buy from you. And that operates whether it's other business owners or people within a niche. It's easier within a niche, but you can do it for just geographical businesses as well. You want as much social proof as you can put on your website. So that's your first one-off job, is fixing your website. Your second one-off job is to fix your LinkedIn. I said earlier that it's absolutely the most critical social media platform for businesses right now. It outweighs all of the other platforms, and you should be spending, if you could spend an hour a day on LinkedIn, that would be amazing. You or someone on your behalf. Now, there are 3 C's that you want to focus on for LinkedIn. It's connect. Oh, I forgot my 3 C's now. It's connect, content, and contact. That's it. Connect, content, contact. So the first thing is to connect with new people. Now, there is a limit to how many new people you can connect with. LinkedIn changed the rules about 18 months ago. It used to be a free-for-all. You could connect to like 200 people a day. I think it's around about 18 to 20 a day now. So you or someone on your behalf every day should be just attempting connections to new people. And the simplest way, I'll give you a super shortcut on this. Find someone else who's already connected to the people you want and connect with that person. So I live just outside Milton Keynes, which is a city in the center of the UK. And there's a guy around here called Mark Orr. He's actually quite an annoying guy, but he knows everyone. He's the guy that does all the networking meetings. He's connected to every business owner in Milton Keynes. If I wanted to reach business owners in Milton Keynes, I would connect to Mark, and then I would connect to his connections. Does that make sense? Because he's done 10 years of hard work for me, so I can just leverage that. So connect is your first C. Content is your second C. You need to post content every single day. Every single day. Now, the very best content that you can post is your own content. Just reflections on what's happening either in your life or in your work, or unboxing videos of new technology, or reviews of things that are happening, reflections in the news. I know that this is difficult stuff for you. I know it's difficult for you to generate because most MSPs are not comfortable doing this. And if you could do just one piece of personal content a week, that would be amazing. The backup to that then is what we call canned content. So I provide canned content to my MSP Marketing Edge members. And in fact, we only have one MSP per area, so their content never conflicts. There are many, many other programs and many other vendors that supply you with content. But whether you use vendor canned content or your own, you need to post something every single day. Ideally, you do a piece of your own content once a week, and then the other days you do canned content. So we've got contact, we've got content, and then the third C is contact. Connect, content, and then contact. Very difficult with these 3 C's. The contact is about messaging. LinkedIn messaging is gorgeous. And that's because you are guaranteed 100% deliverability on your messages. Unlike email, you never know if emails are going to get there. Now, not everyone reads their LinkedIn messages, but you can guarantee the messages will get through to them. And believe me, you are not spamming people by sending them a message. I'm connected to 7,500 MSPs and vendors, and I only get 2 to 3 messages a day. And actually, that's because we're doing a lot of outbound messaging on LinkedIn. So it's very much worth your time just messaging people. Of course, as with any kind of marketing or messaging, the more relevant you can make it, the better. Give you an example. This is an example I've been using for years. Let's say you look after an accountant, and you want more accountants. And let's say that accountant is running some kind of version of Sage, which has just had a problem recently, and you've managed to drill down through the Sage support to find that it's this setting in this particular thing. You could actually write a blog article about that on your website. And then you could message every single other accountant in your LinkedIn network, and you could say to them, hey, I hope you don't mind me messaging you. Do you use Sage version whatever? If you do, we've just spent hours fixing a problem with it for one of the accountants that we look after. I thought you might find this of interest. And you send them off to read that blog on your website. Now, that alone isn't going to make that accountant switch from their current MSP to you. But can you see what a powerful piece of educational content that would be? And obviously, it's a very relevant message to send to them as well. Third thing that you need to do, and these final three, is about building yourself a system. I said right at the beginning that the goal is not to do a series of one-off marketing pieces. It's just to build a system. And we're going to whiz through this very quickly, and we will be finished, Matt, in about 3-4 minutes or so. The first part of building a system is to build those audiences. I said to you earlier, build your email database, build your LinkedIn. Well, I've just told you how to build LinkedIn. Building your email database is very easy. 2 quick wins for you. The first quick win is if you don't already have a CRM, go and get a CRM. So a CRM is for most MSPs, MailChimp is good enough, MailerLite is good enough, Growably, which is free with the Tech Tribe, is good enough. These are good basic CRMs. They're not perfect, but they do the job, and they're not expensive at all. Just get a CRM. Don't overthink it. Don't keep thinking about switching. Just pick one and just go with it. That's the first win. The second win is then to take all of the data that you already have of any prospects you've ever talked to ever. Every business card you've ever collected from networking, everyone who's ever filled out a web form on your website, anything. Go back through the 20 years of Outlook that you've got and pull out the contact details. Even if it's just a first name and an email address, bung it in your CRM. I don't think we've got any Canadian MSPs on the call today, but for most of the countries we are on this webinar, we've got laws like GDPR, there's the Can-Spam Act. The reason I mentioned Canada, in Canada, they have some of the world's toughest anti-spam laws. So this kind of thing is a little bit dodgy in Canada, but the rest of the world, don't worry too much about the law, especially GDPR. GDPR was designed to stop the guys that are sending out 10 million Viagra emails every day. It's not designed to stop you from collecting the 200 or 300 contact details you've collected over the years, bunging them in a CRM and sending out an educational email once a week. As long as they can unsubscribe, you're fine. These are business contacts. Don't overthink it. So that's the second win, is just bung any data you've got into your database. Most MSPs do this, and suddenly you've got a database of 200 MSPs. Brilliant. Now send them a weekly educational email. The perfect best practice for this, by the way, is you send them an email, and in that email, there is a link back to your website. So this is what I do. If you're on my email list, which you can join at paulgreensmspmarketing.com, got to get my own plug in there. When I send an email out, I'll have a little summary of it, and then you need to click through to go and read it, because I want to get you onto my website, because obviously I want to get you to go and look at other things on my website, and you want to do exactly the same thing. Next thing in your system is to then publish regular content. Again, don't overthink this. It's exactly the same as LinkedIn. If you are a comfortable content creator, create content. If you're not, go use the canned content from myself or any of the vendors. But you should be putting new content onto your website blog at least once a week. Original content is going to give you more SEO, more Google juice than canned content, but you can also get things like syndicated blogs. We do a syndicated blog every week. We give to 700 non-competing MSPs, and it's an in-depth blog and a video with a presenter. We have a US presenter and a UK presenter, and we do that not because it gives you Google benefit, but because it gives you prospect benefit. When humans are on your website and they see that you've done an in-depth educational blog article and a video on the same subject every week, that has a huge amount of marketing benefits. And of course, you can then turn that into an educational email. So regular content that's how you build the relationship with people. Again, no one's going to read your blog and then pick up the phone to you, but it's all part of that multi-touch point. If you can send them a message on LinkedIn and they see something on LinkedIn and they get something in the post and they see your blog and open an email, and then the final thing is they get a call from you, which we'll talk about in a second, All of these things is a multi-touch point campaign. So the final part then is to follow up your prospects. And this is about the phone. You go and find someone who can make outbound phone calls for you. Now, this is not cold calling. Cold calling does not work. This is slightly warm calling because you get them to phone your LinkedIn database. You get them to phone your email database. If they run out of people, then you get them to just go and find other business owners locally, and you get them to phone those people. They're not phoning to sell them. They're phoning to engage with them. They're phoning to ask them open questions. This is actually a great job for a back-to-work mum. You can get someone working 2 to 3 hours a day, 2 to 3 days a week during school hours, working from home, using your VoIP system, all calls recorded. It's beautiful. And they're just calling people on your behalf. Now, what they're looking to do is they are looking to find, this answers the timing question. I said earlier that people only buy when they're ready to buy. We don't know when that time is. But your back to work mum, if they can phone 20, 30 people a day, eventually the numbers game says they're going to speak to someone who says, oh, actually, I was thinking of calling, or I was hoping to speak to you guys at some point because we're thinking of not renewing with our incumbent in January. Hallelujah. That's exactly what we want. So essentially, the back to work mum is phoning on your behalf. They don't need to know about technology. They don't need to know about your business or what you sell, because their only job is to uncover people at the right time and then book a 15-minute appointment video call with you. That's their goal. So their output is 15-minute video calls with you. You use that 15-minute video call to turn these people into either dequalify them or turn them into appointments. Remember, the ultimate goal here is a series of systemized actions that happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. That's exactly what we've been talking to. Right, we've got 60 seconds left before we go into Q&As. So if you've got a question, go and stick that in the Q&A, and myself and Matt will answer those in a second. Our final poll is this. What's the biggest thing that will stop you from just getting on with this? Because it's all in the action, isn't it? That's the thing. So the poll has just come up now. These are your options. It's either lack of time, lack of resource, you're not sure where to start, or all of the above. So vote now, please. What's the biggest thing that will stop you from getting on with this? Is it lack of time, lack of resource, you don't know where to start, or all of those above? And just as you are answering those, I'm just going to remind you that the answer to whatever it is that's holding you back is actually not to try and do it yourself. It is to operate something that we call DOA. Now, DOA is an acronym which you might think stands for Dead on Arrival. Well, dead on arrival is what you will be if you try and do everything yourself. Actually, let's turn that acronym into something new. The new thing is delegate, outsource, automate. So if you don't have enough time, and 56%, in fact, we'll close that poll now, 56% of MSPs on this webinar say they don't have enough time. I'm not surprised. The answer is to delegate to your existing team, outsource it to new people, or automate it where you can. And the worst thing you can do as an MSP is try to do all of your marketing yourself. Do it once, set up the system, get other people to do it for you. And that is pretty much, in about 50 minutes or so, that is pretty much everything that you need to know in terms of a marketing strategy for your MSP. So Matt, shall we have a look at, see what questions that we've got?
Oh, I'm here. There we go.
Fantastic.
I was stuck in the green room for a second. Thank you so much, Paul. I hope you guys watching found that helpful and got some points where you can apply to your MSP. But I think now is a great time. We're going to spend hopefully 7 minutes or so just answering your questions. So I'm going to go over to the Q&A tab now. First question here from Alexandras. Great to have you with us. There it is at the bottom of the screen as well. How do you approach a situation where your potential client has an in-house old school IT guy who tends to oppose all that you offer? And probably another is this is probably a slightly different situation. How do you continue talks with a person, such a person who's always buzzing between you and decision makers? So I think there are two situations there. Then
great question. So I'm going to give really quick answers to these, so we can get through as many questions as possible. The secret here is to make that you've got an IT decision maker who's stopping you from reaching the real decision maker because of fear. He or she fears that you are going to come in and show how inefficient they are, how inefficiently they're running the help desk, how that they don't have the strategic ability. This is common. Basically, they're in job protection mode. So your job, Alexandra, is to make friends with that person. Take them out to lunch, dinner, have some beers, and bond with that person. And you've got to show them that you can come in. We call it the donut. We call it the co-managed IT donut. That you can come in and you can surround them. Above them, you can give them strategic advice to make them look good to the board. Below them, you can give them help desk support so that they're not stuck changing user passwords or fixing printers. And then at the side of them, you can help them with whatever is their day job. And essentially, you show them that you're there to make them look good. And then what happens is then they start to recommend you to the board, because all the other people they're talking about are just a threat to their job, whereas you are actually going in and helping them. Now, it could be that they are a nightmare and you just want to get them out. That's a down the line thing. Let's get a foot door first and start working with that business first. Great question, though. Really good question.
Really great question. And then we have amministrazione. I hope my Italian's okay. Is it advisable to do questionnaires to customers before, during, and after MSP interventions?
Yeah, great question. So this is part of the pre-qualification. Short answer is yes, but I would not give them a questionnaire because no one wants to fill in a questionnaire. It's a distress activity. And actually, we want the sales process we want them to feel like everything's awesome and everything has been running smoothly. So if you're going to do a questionnaire, just make it part of your sales process. I recommend to all MSPs that when you go out and do a physical sales meeting, and yes, we're at a point, if you can, depending on the COVID situation in your country, go and see people. As much as we Zoom and we video call, nothing beats sitting in a room with people. If you can do that, you talk to them and you have a list of open questions, which is essentially your questionnaire, and you have that in your book so you never forget the things to ask. The most important open questions to ask are not really about their technology, it's about them. You want to know things like, what are their growth plans? Who are the most important people on their team? What keeps them awake at night? Where do they see themselves in 5 years' time? What does the exit plan look like? What does their other half do? Where do their kids go to school? What's their favorite sports team? And you don't just sit and ask these questions because that makes you sound like a robot, but you build it in to the sales process. Because the goal, remember, they're picking you with their heart. They'll pick the people they like. If it turns out that you and them like the same sports team, and you can talk about that sports team for a few minutes, they're 10 times more likely to pick you. It's weird, isn't it? You could be awful at technology, but people will still pick you if you have some common interest somewhere. So that's what you're attempting to do. But I wouldn't do questionnaires. I'd just build it into your sales questions.
Good answer. Thank you very much. So we've still got a couple of questions. I think we've got time, but if you have any more questions, whack it in the Q&A. But we've got one from Vivian Rodriguez, who I think also asked another question in the chat about if you have any good examples of websites. Maybe if you have any off the top of your head that you can think of, Paul. But Her question that she put in the chat here is, would love to hear the website developer / marketing agency recommendations.
Sure. So I'll quickly give you some good MSP websites to look at. These are all MSPs I work with. I obviously don't have their permission. You know how sometimes it's better to seek forgiveness than it is to ask permission. But their website. So I'm going to give a caveat as well that their websites are not perfect, but there are many good things in these websites. So I'm going from memory here. So itguys.com. It's one of my favorite clients. His name is Ben, and his is a great example of personality and video. So if you go onto itguys.com, up at the top, unless he's changed it in the last 3 weeks or so, up at the top there's a video. There's a little bit as if someone has written on the website, sort of telling them why they should watch the video. And the video is a beautiful example of a case study. In fact, he's got from memory 3 different clients talking about their experience with his business. So that's a great website. And there's just good personality in that. Compex IT, I think it's Compex IT, not complex, there's no L in it. Compexit.co.uk is a great example of showing the person who's the face of the business. So that's Mark and Gary who own that business. Obviously they have a team, but you go on there and instantly it's Mark and Gary. And the people, and it's Mark who does the selling. The people you're going to be buying from are there on the screen in front of you, which is gorgeous. And then one final
website developer recommendations.
I'll come on to that in 2 seconds. There's one very quick one, which is go and look up North Star IT in Brighton. A completely different approach. They use cartoon characters everywhere, but it's a great different approach if you really don't want to put yourself on the website. And also, Chris who runs that, is very good at video. Go and have a look at videos. When he started 2 years ago, he was the world's worst video presenter. And through literally hard work of just doing it every week, he's become one of the best video presenter MSPs. The recommendations are plexa.co.uk. So that's Steve and Paul at Plexa, plexa.co.uk. I've worked with those guys for like over a decade. And then Mark Copeman, I think it's wisecurve.co.uk. Mark Copeman is well known in this sector for help desk habits, and he was involved with customer thermometer, and now he builds websites. Wisecurve.co.uk.
Cool. Awesome. Next question, Tim. How much do you do for free/pay push paid discovery?
Yep. So the goal of doing a discovery is to uncover 1,000 things that are going to stop them from doing business. So I would never do a free discovery because you'll just end up doing a ton of work for nothing. I would always get your clients to pay for it, even if they pay £200, £300, £500, it depends on the size of the business. They are making a commitment. And as part of that discovery, they have to commit to you as well. That obviously they give you the ability to talk to their team, do whatever technical things you need to do, but also that they will sit down with you for a half or an hour or a 60-minute debrief at the end of it. So there's no point doing a discovery if then you just give them a written report and that's the end of it. A discovery is a sales process more than anything else. So yeah, I think always push. If you can get some money, there will be some commitment, because when we've paid for something, we take it more seriously.
Awesome. I think that's all the questions from the Q&A. I think that's 1 minute past one. So I think that's time to call it. Thank you so much, Paul, for being with us. Thank you to everybody who's joined us on the watching, whether you're watching this live or watching it back. It's really great to have you with us. Again, we'll be following up, sending you this recording as well as Paul's little checklist, so you can take these actionable steps home with you and hopefully apply to your MSP. But just on my behalf, it was great to have you all with us. From Ninja's behalf, great to have you all with us, and hopefully see you again next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.